Hi, my name's Jen Pollock Michel. I'm the author of Surprised by Paradox. I'm at the IVP bookshelf talking about some of my favorite women authors. So I want to talk to you about Ashley Hales' book, Finding Holy in the Suburbs. I know Ashley from Redbud Writers Guild, and I love this book because it talks about how our places form our loves. And there's just this idea, I think there's actually a paradox really, when we think about life in the suburbs, like isn't that just kind of like life of comfort and convenience? And actually she's talking about this idea of finding holy in the suburbs, you know, in a place that doesn't seem to necessarily form your love for Christ. So I love that. Ashley and her husband are church planters in Southern California, so this is a great book, a really smart book too. Ashley is a PhD in English, so lots of good things there. I really love Rachel Marie Stone's Eat with Joy, and this came out several years ago. I just feel like, especially as a woman, there's so much disorder around our posture towards food. I personally actually love food, and I love to cook, but I just feel like there's a real challenge of raising specifically daughters in a culture that is obsessive about thinness. And anyways, the subtitle really says a lot: redeeming God's good gift of food, redeeming God's gift of food, and Eat with Joy. This is actually a book that I recently gave to somebody at my gym. I don't even know her, but she was sharing a struggle with an eating disorder, and I said, I have a book for you. And I gave her this book, and I think it's just a beautiful way of thinking about how we can enjoy God's gift of food. Okay. And then Tish Harrison Warren's book, Liturgy of the Ordinary. This won Christianity Today's Book of the Year in 2016, maybe. Tish Harrison Warren is fabulously smart, but I think I love this book because it's actually so incredibly accessible, and it just moves you through a day and thinking about how the liturgies of just our ordinary habits and routines throughout the day illuminate what it means to walk with God. And so I can remember, like, the first chapter of this book talks about like those very first moments when you open your eyes and your hair is all messed up and your bed's all rumpled and you smell and you need to brush your teeth, and like that's actually the moment when God receives you before you've done anything to prove your worthiness. And just like that's actually a moment that's very baptized in grace. So the day moves through checking your email and losing your keys, and it's the liturgy of the ordinary, and I think it's a way to see our ordinary lives as imbued with a lot of significance. So that's Tish Harrison Warren's book. This is Ruth Haley Barton's Sacred Rhythms, and years ago, as I was kind of thinking about desire and the life of faith, I didn't really think that a lot of people were writing about desire and faith, and then I discovered Ruth Haley Barton, and she is so good with talking about how desire can be a catalyst for moving closer to God and paying attention to our desires. So Sacred Rhythms is just one of those books that helps you kind of pay attention to that and to other things. The subtitle is Arranging Our Lives for Spiritual Transformation, and I think she's a very trusted voice in the spiritual formation conversation. And then Karen Wright Marsh's book. This is a new book, Vintage Saints and Sinners. I had a chance to meet Karen recently at a conference, and then I immediately went and got her. Well, I actually heard her speak at a conference, and then I met her, and I had a chance to just get her book. And I love this. I think there's a lot of paradox in this too, because it just speaks about the human condition, that we are all in Christ on this side of eternity, saints and sinners. And so, I actually used Karen's stories that she shared about A.W. Tozer. I share that in Surprised by Paradox. I share some of her research. He was actually a man who was incredibly devout and zealous for prayer and preaching. and yet at the same time wasn't actually very present to his family. And so when he died and his wife remarried, his wife actually kind of recalled that A.W. Tozer loved Jesus, but my new husband actually loves me, which sounds terrible, and I'm sure he loved her as well too. But I think just this idea that there's complexity to human beings. And I personally just love biography, and so I think this is a really fascinating book. It's easy to read. There are just these short excerpts on different people's lives all throughout Christian history. Highly recommend. And that is it. I have so many other books that I could talk about on the IVP bookshelf, but they're not going to give me time. So thanks so much for listening.